The internet is on fire right now. And the streets are buzzing with rumors because Mendices Harris just dropped a bombshell that nobody saw coming in an unexpected late-night Instagram live that's already been viewed over 2 million times. Mendices didn't just clear the air, he set it on fire. The former Love and Hip Hop, New York star, known for his calm demeanor and tight-knit family image, suddenly let loose in a shocking rant that has fans reeling, friends choosing sides, and producers scrambling for damage control. What really happened behind the scenes? Why was Mendices fired from the show he helped make a hit? Well, according to him, the truth is darker, messier, and way more personal than anyone could have imagined. It all started when Mendices began his live with what seemed like a casual Q&A. He was sipping tea, literally a cup in hand, relaxed smile, until a comment popped up that changed everything. One viewer wrote, "Why'd they really let you go, bro? Yandi said it was your decision." That's when the smile faded, his expression hardened, and the silence that followed was heavy. The kind of silence that tells you something big is about to go down. Then, in a low, tense voice, he said, "See, that's the problem. Everybody thinks they know what happened, but nobody knows what was really going on." Fans in the comments were begging him to spill, sending fire emojis and question marks like confetti, and Mendices didn't disappoint. What came next was part confession, part accusation, and part emotional meltdown. He hinted that he'd been set up, not just by the producers, but by someone close to him, someone he'd trusted. "They wanted me gone," he said. "They couldn't handle the truth about what was happening off camera." Within minutes, social media went wild. Clips of his live were reposted everywhere. Hashtags like #MenDCsExposed and #TheRealReason started trending on X and Instagram. Even celebrities started chiming in, some defending him, others calling him out for airing dirty laundry. But the craziest part, Yandi Smith herself, Mendices' wife and longtime partner, went silent. No posts, no comments, no response. Fans noticed immediately, and speculation exploded. Was she the one he was talking about? Or was it someone else in the Love and Hip Hop circle pulling strings behind the scenes? One fan summed it up perfectly in a viral tweet. "If what Mendices said is true, then VH1 might never recover from this." But what did he really reveal? What was the breaking point that pushed him to go public, risking his reputation, his family, and his entire legacy? Tonight, we're diving deep into Mendices' shocking claims, the hidden feuds, the alleged betrayals, and the emotional fallout that's tearing his world apart. Get ready, because this isn't just another celebrity scandal. This is a reality TV implosion in real life. Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear might just change everything you thought you knew about Mendices, Yandi, and the entire Love and Hip Hop empire. Fans are still reeling from Mendices' explosive revelation, and you can almost feel the tension crackling through the air as the story begins to unfold. It all started in the quiet of his home, late at night, when he received a text that would ignite a chain reaction of chaos he never saw coming. The message was short, cryptic, and chilling. "We need to talk now." Mendices stared at his phone, the light from the screen reflecting the confusion and unease in his eyes. He didn't recognize the number at first, but the tone was unmistakable. Someone from the production team, someone high up, had finally reached out, and the words carried the weight of an unspoken threat. Emotions ran high as he dialed back, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. "Hello." Mendices' voice cracked slightly, betraying a rare vulnerability that his fans weren't used to seeing. The reply was sharp, deliberate, and cold. "We can't have you here anymore. It's better if you step aside." The words hit him like a punch, leaving him frozen, staring at the blank wall in front of him. The camera wouldn't capture this, the audience wouldn't know the real story. But in that moment, he felt a betrayal deeper than any storyline could portray. He asked why, demanding an explanation, and the reply was vague, brushing off accountability. It was the beginning of a spiral that would shake not only his career but his entire world. Mendices tried to hold it together, but the frustration bubbled up inside him, and for the first time, he spoke out. "You can't just do this to me," he said, voice trembling. "After everything I've given, everything I've been through on this show, you can't just erase me like I never existed." There was a pause, a silence loaded with tension, before the answer came. "It's not personal, it's business." But Mendices knew the truth wasn't that simple. He had seen the glances behind his back, the whispered conversations when he thought nobody was watching. Someone was maneuvering against him, using the show, using the cameras, using his own reputation as a weapon. As he hung up, the weight of the situation hit him harder than he expected. He wasn't just a star. He was a husband, a father, a figure his family relied on for stability. The thought of telling Yandi, his wife, brought a lump to his throat. He pictured her face, calm yet concerned, trying to hide her own fear for the sake of their children. "How do I even start this conversation?" he muttered to himself. The family room, usually a place of laughter and warmth, suddenly felt like a battlefield. The stakes were higher than they had ever been, and Mendices felt every bit of the pressure bearing down on him. The next morning, he sat at the kitchen table, coffee cooling in front of him, phone in hand, trying to craft the words he would need to explain the situation to Yandi. He rehearsed in his head, "They said it's business, but it feels like betrayal." He couldn't bring himself to say the full truth yet. That someone he trusted on the production team had orchestrated his removal, manipulating the narrative, creating a story that made him look like the problem. It was one thing to deal with public opinion, another to confront deception at this level. Fans, meanwhile, had begun to notice subtle shifts. Behind the scenes, clips surfaced online, showing Mendices visibly frustrated during filming. Sharp exchanges with producers caught on camera. The internet, as always, filled in the gaps with speculation. Some said it was tension with other cast members, some blamed a secret personal issue, and a few even hinted at family drama. None of it came close to the truth, but Mendices watched from a distance, a mixture of anger and disbelief stirring inside him. He wanted to correct the narrative, to claim his side of the story, but he also feared the consequences of revealing everything. The day he decided to finally confront the production team in person was like stepping into a lion's den. He walked into the office, suit crisp but hands shaking, and demanded answers. "I need to know exactly why I'm being treated like this," he said, voice firm but controlled. The response was a series of rehearsed statements, evasive and polished, meant to deflect responsibility. Mendices leaned forward, eyes narrowing, refusing to let them off easy. "Don't tell me it's business," he shot back. "I know what's going on behind my back. I see it, I hear it, and I deserve the truth." The conversation escalated quickly. A producer, visibly uncomfortable, muttered something about creative differences, but Mendices saw right through it. He pressed further, exposing inconsistencies, pointing out moments where decisions were made without his knowledge, changes to scripts and scenes that painted him in a negative light. Voices rose, tension spiked, and the meeting ended with no resolution, only deeper confusion and more frustration. He left the building with a clenched jaw, the kind of anger that simmers beneath the surface, ready to explode. Returning home, Mendices knew he couldn't stay silent any longer. He called a close friend, someone who had always been in his corner, and explained the full story for the first time. "They're trying to rewrite my history," he said, pacing the living room. "Everything I did on that show, everything I gave, they want to erase it." His friend listened, offering support but also warning him about the risks of going public. "Fans will be on your side, but the network, they don't play fair," the friend cautioned. "You have to be careful." But Mendices had already made up his mind. He couldn't allow his story to be twisted any longer. The next scene unfolded as he prepared for an online live stream, the camera capturing his every move. He sat down, straightened his posture, and stared directly into the lens, ready to speak to the millions of fans who had supported him throughout his journey. The first words were measured, calm, but every sentence carried weight, each pause emphasizing the gravity of his confession. He spoke of loyalty, betrayal, frustration, and determination, revealing glimpses of the behind-the-scenes struggles that had pushed him to the edge. The tension in his voice was palpable, emotions raw, almost electric. Comments began flooding in immediately, viewers reacting with shock and disbelief. "I never thought this would happen," wrote one. "How could they do this to him?" wrote another. Mendices read some aloud, his eyes glistening with emotion. The responses ranged from supportive to skeptical. But one thing was undeniable. The story was gripping, impossible to ignore. He knew, gripping, impossible to ignore. He knew he had struck a nerve, tapped into the curiosity and passion of an audience that thrives on drama, and that feeling of connection, of finally having his truth heard, was intoxicating. Even Yandi noticed the shift. She entered the room quietly, observing Mendices as he spoke. Her own emotions conflicted, pride mixed with worry, love intertwined with fear. The family dynamic was changing before her eyes, and she knew the days ahead would be anything but simple. Conversations that had once been casual now carried the weight of secrets and strategy. Decisions that had seemed small suddenly felt monumental. The family was left divided, emotions raw, and no one could predict the fallout. And just when it seemed the tension might settle, another twist arrived. A former cast member reached out to Mendices, hinting at information that could change everything. There's more. The message read, "Stuff you don't even know about." The text alone was enough to make Mendice's stomach turn, anticipation and dread mixing in equal measure. The story he thought he was telling was only part of a much larger, more tangled narrative, one that promised even more shock, betrayal, and revelation. Mendices realized in that moment that this wasn't just about being fired, about public perception, or even personal pride. It was about truth, justice, and reclaiming his narrative before it was too late. The emotional stakes couldn't have been higher. Every decision, every word, every step mattered. And he knew the path ahead would be filled with conflict, heated arguments, and choices that could forever alter relationships, reputations, and loyalties. Fans watched every clip, dissected every moment, and debated every line. Social media exploded with speculation, theories, and heated arguments. The pressure was mounting, but Mendices felt a strange sense of empowerment. For the first time, he wasn't just reacting to events, he was controlling the narrative, seizing the spotlight, and making the world pay attention. He knew that what came next would define the rest of his career and perhaps even his legacy. And just as the first wave of shock started to settle, another revelation came through a voice memo, accidentally leaked from someone on the production team, confirming some of the suspicions Mendices had only hinted at. The memo contained hushed voices, discussions of edits, manipulation, and deliberate exclusion. Fans erupted in disbelief, the story spreading faster than wildfire. Emotions ran high, opinions clashed, and the drama escalated to levels no one could have anticipated. This was only the beginning. The leaked voice memo was a bombshell, and Mendices knew it. He listened to it again, every word sinking like a dagger into his chest. The producers' voices, hushed yet unmistakable, confirmed the worst. They had orchestrated his exit, manipulated storylines, and twisted interactions to make him look unstable, unreliable, even difficult. Every claim he had made during the livestream, every hint of betrayal, was now supported by tangible proof. He could almost feel the electricity of the scandal coursing through the air as he realized the stakes were even higher than he thought. This was no longer just a personal battle. It was a public war, one that would ripple through social media, gossip sites, and every corner of reality TV fandom. Mendices immediately called Yandi into the living room. "You have to hear this," he said, voice tense but resolute. She leaned over his shoulder, listening as the audio played through the speakers. Her expression shifted with every sentence: shock, anger, disbelief. By the time it ended, her hands were shaking, and the silence between them was deafening. They planned this," she whispered, almost inaudibly. Mendices nodded, eyes fixed on hers. "Every step of the way," he said, "and now it's our move. We can't let them control the story anymore." The family, usually united in private moments of calm, now felt the weight of a public battlefield pressing down on them. Emotions ran high, and the tension was palpable, as though the walls themselves were holding their collective breath. The next morning, Mendices decided to confront one of the producers directly. He entered the studio, past the cameras and sets that once felt like a second home, and demanded a private conversation. The producer, a man known for his composure and strategic thinking, appeared calm on the surface, but Mendices noticed the subtle twitch of his jaw, the slight narrowing of his eyes. "We need to talk," Mendices said, voice steady but sharp. The producer nodded, gesturing toward a back room. Inside, away from cameras and crew, the tension was nearly tangible. "I heard the memo," Mendices began. "You can't just play with people's lives like this. What you did was calculated, unfair, and unethical." The producer's response was measured but defensive. "We make decisions for the show, for ratings. It's not personal," he said. "You know how the industry works." But Mendices wasn't buying it. "Not personal," he repeated, voice rising slightly. "You manipulated my image, turned my own story against me, and now you expect me to accept it like it's a business transaction. I gave everything to this show." The argument escalated quickly, voices raised, tension thickened, and the confrontation ended with no clear resolution. Only a sense of simmering hostility that promised more drama to come. Back at home, Mendices and Yandi discussed their next move. They knew that going public with the memo could be risky. It might expose them to legal threats or backlash. But staying silent felt like surrender. "We have to control the narrative," Yandi said, her eyes filled with determination. "Fans need to know the truth. We can't let them spin this any longer." Mendices agreed. He drafted a plan to release selected portions of the memo, combined with his personal account, to social media. The goal wasn't just to defend himself, but to reclaim his story, assert his credibility, and show the world that he wouldn't be silenced. The announcement sent shockwaves through fans and critics alike. Clips went viral within minutes, trending across multiple platforms. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag #MenDeeceestruth. Hashtag behind the scenes. Hashtag reality show drama. Opinions poured in, some supportive, some skeptical, and others downright critical. Mendeecees read each comment, feeling a mix of vindication and frustration. People didn't fully understand the depth of what he had endured, the private battles, the emotional toll, and the relentless pressure of performing under scrutiny while being undermined behind the scenes. As the days went on, more leaks surfaced. Former cast members, perhaps emboldened by Mendeecees' courage, began sharing their own experiences. Some spoke of favoritism, secret alliances, and moments where they felt forced to take sides. Each revelation added fuel to the fire, creating a labyrinth of drama that seemed impossible to untangle. Mendeecees found himself at the center, not just defending his own reputation, but navigating a tangled web of relationships, rivalries, and hidden agendas that threatened to consume everything he had worked for. The family dynamic also became increasingly strained. Yandi, trying to balance support for her husband with the need to protect their children, found herself in difficult positions. Conversations once simple became layered with caution, strategy, and negotiation. Even casual outings with friends required careful planning, aware that any slip could be exploited in the public eye. Mendeecees, meanwhile, wrestled with his own emotions. Anger, betrayal, determination, and fear mingled together, shaping his decisions and interactions with a heightened intensity. One evening, an unexpected twist further complicated matters. A trusted associate, someone Mendeecees had known for years, sent a private message suggesting that the leaks were only the beginning. "There's more behind the scenes than anyone knows," the message read. "You're not the only one being targeted. They've been planning this for months, maybe even years." The revelation was shocking. Mendeecees realized that the battle was far from over. He was facing a coordinated effort, one designed to manipulate perceptions, control narratives, and pit allies against each other. Determined to stay ahead, Mendeecees organized a meeting with close friends and family. The room was tense, voices low, eyes darting as everyone processed the gravity of the situation. Strategies were discussed, risks assessed, and plans formulated. The goal was clear: reclaim agency over the story, protect the family, and expose the truth without becoming consumed by the chaos. It was a delicate balance, one that required trust, patience, and courage. As he navigated this new reality, Mendeecees also confronted his own emotions. Moments of self-doubt crept in, questioning whether he had acted too hastily, whether public exposure might backfire, whether he could withstand the relentless scrutiny. Yet, each challenge strengthened his resolve. The combination of personal stakes, public attention, and the unfolding drama fueled a determination to persevere, to fight, and to ensure that his narrative, his truth, would not be silenced. The intensity reached a climax during a surprise confrontation with a former producer at an industry event. Cameras, though not officially rolling, captured the tension as voices rose and accusations flew. Whispers spread rapidly, fans and insiders analyzing every gesture, every expression. The event became a microcosm of the larger battle: control versus chaos, loyalty versus betrayal, truth versus perception. Mendeecees stood firm, unwavering despite the pressure, while allies and onlookers watched, some in awe, some in disbelief. By the end of the week, the story reached a fever pitch. News outlets picked up snippets, social media platforms buzzed with speculation, and fan theories proliferated like wildfire. Mendeecees had become the focal point of a complex drama that transcended typical reality TV conflict. It was personal, it was public, and it was completely unpredictable. Every action, every word, and every revelation carried consequences, shaping the narrative in real time and keeping audiences on the edge of their seats. Even as the drama escalated, Mendeecees maintained a sense of purpose. He understood that the fight was about more than ratings, more than fame. It was about integrity, justice, and the ability to tell his story on his own terms. The combination of emotional stakes, public attention, and strategic maneuvering created a tension so palpable that it seemed to ripple through every interaction, every post, and every conversation. Fans were riveted, friends were wary, and the family was left navigating uncharted emotional territory. And just when it seemed like the story had reached its peak, another twist emerged. An anonymous tip suggesting that someone else within the production circle had been manipulating events from behind the scenes, potentially even undermining other cast members as part of a larger, hidden agenda. Mendices realized that the narrative he had begun to expose was far more complex than he had imagined, layered with intrigue, deception, and conflicting loyalties that could change everything he thought he knew about the situation. The stakes had never been higher. Every move mattered, every revelation carried weight, and every relationship teetered on the edge of conflict. Mendices, now fully aware of the intricate web surrounding him, braced for the next chapter of drama, one that promised to be even more shocking, emotional, and unpredictable than anything that had come before. The anonymous tip shook Mendices to his core. He stared at the message on his phone, rereading it over and over as if repetition could make the implications less staggering. "Someone is still pulling strings," it said, "and it's bigger than you think." His chest tightened. He had already weathered so much: the firing, the leaked memo, the social media backlash, but this suggested that the drama was far from over. It wasn't just a single act of betrayal. It was a full-blown strategy aimed at destabilizing everyone involved. The thought alone sent shivers down his spine. He immediately called Yandi into the room. Her expression shifted from curiosity to concern as he explained the situation. "This isn't just about me anymore," he said, voice low and tense. "They've been manipulating the story, the cast, the narrative. It's a coordinated effort." Yandi's hands gripped the edge of the table. "We need to be careful," she said, her tone steady but laced with anxiety. "This could get dangerous if it escalates. We have to think strategically, not emotionally." But Mendices, fueled by a mixture of righteous anger and determination, knew that inaction wasn't an option. He had to act, even if the consequences were unpredictable. The following day, he arranged to meet a former cast member who had insider knowledge of the production team's inner workings. The meeting was set in a quiet cafe, away from prying eyes. The atmosphere was tense, each sip of coffee punctuated by cautious glances around the room. "I know what you're thinking," the cast member began, voice low and hesitant. "But it's worse than you know. They've been playing everyone, manipulating scenes, creating drama, even planting false narratives to turn people against each other." Mendices leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Who's behind this?" he asked, heart pounding. The cast member hesitated, then whispered a name that made Mendices' stomach twist. It was someone he had trusted, someone whose loyalty he had never questioned, and now he realized that trust had been a facade. The revelation ignited a new wave of emotions: betrayal, shock, fury, but also a sense of clarity. He now understood the full scope of the situation. The invisible threads weaving through every scene, every storyline, every decision. The battle was bigger than he had imagined, involving multiple layers of deception and manipulation. Yet amidst the chaos, a plan began to form. He would confront the key players, expose the hidden agendas, and reclaim control over the narrative before it spiraled further out of control. Over the next few days, Mendices carefully orchestrated a series of meetings and phone calls. He spoke with friends, former cast members, and even a few sympathetic insiders who were willing to provide context and support. Each conversation added pieces to the puzzle, confirming suspicions, revealing new twists, and uncovering alliances he hadn't known existed. With every revelation, the stakes grew higher. It became clear that this wasn't just a personal battle, it was a full-scale war for truth, reputation, and justice. The family, meanwhile, felt the pressure mounting. Yandi tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for the children, but even casual moments at home carried tension. Conversations were punctuated by careful phrasing, cautious gestures, and silent glances that spoke volumes. Friends and relatives who had once been sources of comfort now approached cautiously, unsure of what was safe to say or do. Mendices, aware of every eye on him, knew that he had to navigate not only the public drama, but also the fragile dynamics of trust and loyalty within his own circle. Then came the first real confrontation. Mendices arranged a private meeting with one of the producers implicated in the leaked memo and the anonymous tip. The setting was tense, a small office with closed doors and minimal distractions. As he entered, the producer's demeanor was calm, almost smug, but Mendices could sense the underlying anxiety. "We need to talk about the manipulations," Mendices began, voice steady but firm. The producer raised an eyebrow. "Manipulations?" he asked. "Everything we did was for the show. You're overreacting." Mendices leaned forward, intensity in his gaze. "Overreacting? You deliberately twisted storylines, planted false narratives, and tried to turn cast members against each other. I have proof." The producer's face tightened, but he maintained composure. "Proof?" he echoed, clearly calculating his response. Mendices nodded, pulling out evidence compiled from leaked memos, recordings, and first-hand accounts. "This isn't just about ratings," he said. "It's about integrity, It's about truth, and you've crossed the line. Voices escalated, tension building with each exchange. The conversation ended with no resolution, but the emotional impact was immense. Mendices left the office with a mix of anger and determination, knowing that the confrontation was just the beginning. As the drama unfolded publicly, fans became more engaged than ever. Social media was ablaze with speculation, analysis, and opinion. Clips of previous interactions, old interviews, and even casual behind-the-scenes moments were dissected for clues. Hashtags surged, trending worldwide, while fans debated the legitimacy of every claim. Mendices watched it all, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and apprehension. He had ignited a conversation, reclaimed some control over the narrative. But the intensity of public scrutiny was exhausting. Every post, every comment, every clip was magnified, leaving him hyper-aware of the stakes. Amidst this chaos, another twist arrived. A former editor, previously unseen in the drama, reached out to Mendices with information that could alter everything. The editor claimed to have access to footage showing deliberate editing to misrepresent key moments, conversations, and conflicts. "You need to see this," the message read. "It proves what you've suspected, and more." The implications were staggering. Mendices realized that even the footage broadcasted on the show had been weaponized against him, a tool used to distort reality and manipulate public perception. The family, already strained, felt the ripple effects of this revelation. Yandi's anxiety heightened, as she grappled with the need to protect their children while supporting Mendices' efforts. The emotional load was immense, but the couple found strength in their shared determination. They strategized late into the night, crafting plans for selective disclosures, controlled releases, and coordinated statements that could balance truth with prudence. Every decision was fraught with risk, yet they knew that inaction was not an option. As tensions escalated, Mendices also faced personal conflicts with former cast members who were uncertain where loyalties lay. Some offered support, others remained silent, and a few subtly distanced themselves to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. Navigating these relationships required patience, diplomacy, and intuition. Mendices had to weigh the value of each alliance, anticipate potential betrayals, and determine which connections were worth preserving in a storm of uncertainty. Then, in a dramatic turn, a live confrontation was arranged between Mendices and several key players, including a former cast member who had played a pivotal role in shaping the narrative against him. Cameras were present this time, but the situation was tense and unscripted. Voices rose, accusations flew, and emotions reached a fever pitch. The audience, both live and online, watched in shock as long-hidden grievances, resentments, and secrets were laid bare. Every exchange was charged with emotion, every reaction amplified by the knowledge that millions were witnessing the unfolding drama. The fallout from the confrontation was immediate. Clips went viral, social media exploded, and fans were left debating. Who was in the right, who had been manipulated, and what the ultimate outcome would be. Mendices, exhausted but resolute, realized that this public drama was only a reflection of the deeper battles, the emotional, personal, and strategic challenges that had been simmering behind the scenes for months. The stakes had never been higher, and the outcome remained uncertain. As the week progressed, yet another revelation emerged. A second anonymous source, claiming to be a former insider, sent evidence that suggested even more manipulation, more secret alliances, and previously undisclosed conflicts. Mendices felt a mix of dread and resolve. The narrative was growing exponentially more complex, and he knew that careful navigation would be required to prevent total chaos. The emotional intensity, the sense of betrayal, and the public scrutiny combined to create a pressure cooker atmosphere, one that demanded careful strategy, courage, and unwavering focus. And just when it seemed like the situation could not escalate further, a dramatic twist emerged. An unexpected public statement from a high-profile cast member who had remained neutral until now. The statement was ambiguous but pointed, hinting at knowledge of behind-the-scenes manipulations and raising questions about loyalty, truth, and accountability. Fans exploded with speculation, debates, and theories, and the story's complexity deepened further. Mendices realized that this battle was far from over, and the next phase would demand both strategic action and emotional resilience. The week ended with tensions unresolved, stakes higher than ever, and the drama intensifying. Mendices, fully aware of the challenges ahead, braced for the next chapter, one that promised more revelations, confrontations, and shocking twists. The story was far from over, and the public remained riveted, eager for the next installment in a saga of betrayal, manipulation, and the struggle for truth. The high-profile cast member's statement set social media ablaze. Fans dissected every word, every pause, and every insinuation, trying to connect the dots in a web of drama that was now spiraling out of control. Mendices read the statement with a mix of frustration and determination. The ambiguity was maddening. It hinted at hidden truths, undisclosed alliances, and yet it offered nothing concrete. But Mendices knew one thing for certain. He couldn't let ambiguity define the narrative anymore. He had to take control, to clarify, to assert the truth as he saw it. That evening, he called Yandi into the study. The house was quiet, almost eerily so, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath in anticipation of what was about to unfold. "We can't wait for them to reveal everything first," he said, voice low but intense. "We need to set the record straight, and we need to do it our way." Yandi nodded, a mixture of fear and resolve in her eyes. She had stood by him through countless challenges, but the scale of this drama was unprecedented. Together, they began strategizing, discussing which pieces of evidence to release, how to frame the narrative, and what to reveal publicly versus privately. Meanwhile, the industry was watching. Insiders whispered, reporters speculated, and fans theorized endlessly. Every clip, every screenshot, every past interview was being analyzed for hidden meanings. Mendices could feel the pressure mounting not just from the public, but from the people who had orchestrated the initial betrayal. He knew they were watching, waiting, and perhaps even planning their next move. The tension was suffocating, yet it fueled his determination to push forward. In the days that followed, he arranged a series of private meetings with former cast members, crew, and insiders. Some were hesitant to speak, fearful of retaliation or public backlash. Others were eager to share their experiences, validating Mendices' suspicions and adding new layers of complexity to the unfolding drama. One former cast member revealed that there had been intentional efforts to manipulate scenes, edit conversations, and create conflicts that didn't truly exist, all to cast Mendices in a negative light. The revelation was staggering. Emotions ran high as Mendices listened, absorbing every detail and calculating his next steps. The family felt the weight of the escalating drama. Yandi, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy for their children, found herself walking a tightrope between support and protection. Even casual conversations were laden with caution, aware that any misstep could be twisted into a headline. Friends and relatives were drawn into the whirlwind, offering advice, solidarity, or sometimes unintentionally adding fuel to the fire. Mendices, acutely aware of the delicate balance, knew that every interaction now carried strategic importance. Then came the confrontation that would become the talk of the week. A production assistant, previously considered neutral, stepped forward with information suggesting that the manipulation extended even further than anyone had imagined. Scenes were being coordinated weeks in advance to create specific narratives. Cast members were being coached to deliver lines that would generate drama, and key moments were being deliberately edited to misrepresent reality. Mendices realized that he was not just fighting for his own reputation. He was fighting against a system designed to exploit, distort, and control. The intensity reached new heights when he confronted the assistant directly. The conversation was private but emotionally charged. "You're complicit in this," Mendices said, voice steady but firm. "You helped create a narrative that isn't real, that manipulates public perception. Do you understand the consequences?" The assistant, visibly shaken, admitted that the operations were coordinated, that multiple people had been involved, and that the goal was to maintain control over the storyline, regardless of truth or fairness. Mendices left the conversation with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to expose the layers of manipulation and reclaim his story. As the drama continued to unfold publicly, fans were riveted. Social media platforms exploded with commentary, debate, and speculation. Clips of confrontations, leaked messages, and insider revelations were shared repeatedly, dissected for hidden meaning. Hashtags surged globally, trending for days, and fan theories multiplied exponentially. Mendices, observing the frenzy, realized that he had successfully captured public attention, but the pressure to maintain credibility, accuracy, and control was immense. Every post, every statement, and every interaction could tip the balance of perception. The personal stakes were equally high. Friends who had once been confidants now approached with caution, unsure of where loyalties lay. Some offered support, while others subtly distanced themselves, fearful of becoming collateral damage in a conflict that was growing increasingly complex. Mendices found himself navigating a delicate landscape of trust, strategy, and emotion, balancing the need to protect his family with the imperative to fight for his truth. Then came the revelation that would shake the foundation of the drama even further. A hidden recording surfaced, revealing a private conversation among producers that confirmed intentional manipulation, strategic exclusion, and attempts to undermine multiple cast members, not just Mendici. The footage, once viewed, was incendiary, a clear demonstration of how narratives had been engineered behind the scenes. Fans erupted in shock, disbelief and outrage, dissecting every word and facial expression. The story was no longer about a single firing. It was about a larger, coordinated effort to control reality television narratives and manipulate public perception. Mendicis and Yandi convened late into the night, reviewing the evidence and planning their next steps. The family dynamic was intense, filled with emotional highs and lows. As they navigated the implications of public disclosure, personal risk, and the broader impact on their lives, every decision carried weight, and every action was calculated with precision. The emotional stakes were immense. Anger, betrayal, and determination collided with the need to protect the family and maintain public credibility. Just when it seemed like the situation had reached its peak, another twist emerged. A former insider, previously silent, released a statement suggesting that some cast members had actively collaborated with the producers to misrepresent events, adding a layer of betrayal that cut deep. Fans reacted immediately, debates erupted, and social media buzzed with speculation and outrage. The drama had reached a level where every revelation only intensified the stakes, making resolution increasingly elusive. Mendicis knew that navigating this next phase would require both strategic thinking and emotional resilience. He began organizing controlled disclosures, selective releases, and carefully crafted statements to clarify his position, expose manipulation, and maintain credibility. The process was exhausting, emotionally taxing, and fraught with risk. But he understood that the battle for truth was far from over. Amidst the chaos, he also faced internal reflection. Moments of doubt crept in, questioning decisions, fearing missteps, and contemplating the long-term impact on his family and career. Yet, each challenge strengthened his resolve. He understood that the fight was not just about public perception, but about personal integrity, accountability, and reclaiming control over his life and narrative. As the week drew to a close, tensions remained high, public scrutiny intensified, and the drama showed no signs of abating. Mendicis, fully aware of the complexities and risks ahead, braced himself for the next chapter, one that promised more shocking revelations, personal confrontations, and public spectacle. The story, far from over, continued to captivate audiences, keeping everyone on edge and eager for the next explosive twist in a saga of betrayal, manipulation, and the struggle for truth. The insider's statement sent shockwaves across the internet. Fans, who were already on edge, erupted into debates, theories, and heated arguments. Every tweet, comment, and repost amplified the tension, turning what was already a storm into a full-blown media frenzy. Mendicis watched the chaos unfold from his home, a mix of frustration and determination coursing through him. This wasn't just about reputation anymore. It was about truth, family, and reclaiming control over a narrative that had been manipulated for months. He called Yandi into the living room, her presence grounding him amidst the chaos. "They're trying to rewrite everything," he said, voice low but urgent. "Every storyline, every interaction, every moment that was ever broadcast, it's all being twisted." Yandi nodded, her expression tense, but resolute. She had seen the emotional toll on her husband, the way the betrayal had cut deep, and now she understood the stakes on a new level. "Then we fight," she said simply. "We don't let them control the story anymore. We take it back, piece by piece." Mendicis began organizing meetings with former cast members and allies who were willing to speak openly. The conversations were raw, emotional, and often tense. Old grudges resurfaced, loyalties were tested, and every revelation seemed to add a new layer of complexity to the drama. One former cast member revealed that certain episodes had been intentionally edited to misrepresent arguments, showing him in a negative light, while another disclosed that producers had coached other cast members to provoke conflicts that would play out on camera. The pattern was unmistakable. Manipulation had been systematic, deliberate, and personal. The family, meanwhile, continued to navigate the emotional fallout. Yandi did her best to shield their children from the chaos, but even simple outings were fraught with tension. Friends and relatives approached cautiously, unsure of where to stand or what to say, while fans and media scrutinized every public appearance. Mendicis felt the pressure mounting, knowing that each action, each statement, could influence public perception and impact the broader narrative. The emotional stakes were immense, yet he remained steadfast in his determination to expose the truth. As the drama intensified, Mendices received a private message from a former producer, someone who had previously stayed silent. The message hinted at even deeper levels of manipulation, suggesting that certain storylines had been designed to create maximum conflict, pitting cast members against each other and amplifying tension for ratings. "You're not the only target," the message read. "They've been orchestrating this for months. It's bigger than you realize." The implications were staggering, confirming that the battle he had been fighting was part of a larger scheme, one that extended beyond individual grievances and into a network of strategic manipulation. Determined to confront the issue head-on, Mendices arranged a face-to-face meeting with the producer. The room was small, tension thick, as he presented the compiled evidence, leaked memos, recordings, and first-hand accounts. "This isn't just about ratings," he said, voice firm. "It's about integrity, fairness, and truth. You've manipulated scenes, misrepresented conflicts, and orchestrated betrayals. Do you understand what you've done?" The producer, visibly uncomfortable, tried to maintain composure, but subtle signs of anxiety betrayed him. The conversation escalated, voices rose, and for the first time, Mendices felt a sense of control over the narrative, asserting his authority in a space that had previously been dominated by others. The confrontation, once publicized, triggered a surge of fan engagement. Social media exploded with commentary, debate, and analysis. Clips were dissected, hashtags trended globally, and fan theories proliferated. The public fascination with the drama reached new heights, turning what had been a personal struggle into a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Mendices, while exhausted, recognized the power of the moment. He was shaping the conversation, reclaiming his story, and exposing manipulation on a scale few had anticipated. Amidst the public spectacle, personal conflicts intensified. Former cast members who had remained neutral began choosing sides, creating tension, alliances, and unexpected betrayals. Some approached Mendices with offers of support, while others distanced themselves to avoid entanglement. Navigating these relationships required strategic thinking, emotional resilience, and careful judgment. Every conversation, every interaction, carried potential consequences for both the family and the broader narrative. Then came an unexpected twist. A leaked email from a high-ranking producer revealed that some cast members had actively collaborated with management to manipulate storylines, further validating Mendices' suspicions. The leak ignited outrage, speculation, and intense debate among fans, media, and insiders. Mendices realized that the battle was far from over. The web of deceit was extensive, involving multiple layers of actors, motivations, and hidden agendas. He convened a private strategy session with Yandy, mapping out the next steps. They discussed controlled disclosures, selective releases, and tactical use of social media to maintain credibility while exposing the truth. Every detail was analyzed, every possible consequence considered. The emotional stakes were immense, but the couple's shared determination provided a foundation of strength amidst the storm. Public interest continued to intensify. Each new revelation, each leaked clip, each insider account fueled speculation and debate. Hashtags surged, trending globally, as fans dissected, analyzed, and theorized. Mendices, aware of the heightened scrutiny, navigated each interaction with care, balancing transparency with prudence. The narrative had grown beyond personal conflict. It had become a high-stakes public spectacle, with every move, statement, and post amplified. In parallel, personal stakes escalated further. Friends and former allies wrestled with decisions about loyalty, involvement, and disclosure. The emotional toll on Mendices and Yandy was palpable, yet their determination remained unshaken. They knew that exposing the truth required courage, strategy, and careful orchestration to maintain control over the unfolding narrative. The tipping point came when a public confrontation between Mendices and a former cast member, amplified by social media, reached millions of viewers. Tensions flared, accusations were exchanged, and the emotional intensity was almost unbearable. Fans were captivated, media outlets analyzed every detail, and the story's complexity deepened further. It became clear that the conflict was no longer just about Mendices firing. It was about a system of manipulation, power, and control within reality television. As the week drew to a close, Mendices found himself at a crossroads. The public drama had reached unprecedented heights. Personal stakes were higher than ever, and the narrative was more complex and volatile than he had anticipated. Yet amidst the chaos, he remained focused on the mission to reclaim his story, expose manipulation, and protect his family. Every revelation, confrontation, and strategic move brought him closer to asserting control. Yet the emotional and public pressures promised that the next chapter would be even more intense, shocking, and unpredictable. And just as he thought, he had navigated the worst of it. A final revelation surfaced, a hidden recording of a private meeting, exposing further coordination among producers and cast members to distort reality and amplify drama. The implications were staggering. Mendices realized that the narrative was far from over, that the next phase would demand unprecedented resilience, strategic thinking, and emotional fortitude. The stage was set for the ultimate showdown, one that promised to be as explosive, dramatic, and shocking as anything fans had witnessed thus far. The revelation of the hidden recording pushed Mendices to the brink. Every betrayal, every manipulation, every calculated lie was laid bare, and he realized that the showdown he had been preparing for was now unavoidable. The storm surrounding him, his family, and the show had reached its peak. And every action from this point forward would have consequences that could echo for years. He took a deep breath, steadied himself, and made a decision. He would confront everyone involved, publicly and directly, ensuring that the truth could no longer be hidden or distorted. The first step was reaching out to key allies who had been caught in the web of deception. Former cast members, insiders, and even those who had initially distanced themselves were called to a private meeting. The room was tense, voices low, emotions raw. Mendices spoke first, laying out the evidence, the manipulations, and the personal betrayals. "We've all been part of something bigger than us," he said, voice steady but charged with emotion. "It's time to reclaim our narrative, expose the truth, and stop being pawns in a game we never agreed to play." Reactions ranged from shock to relief, from fear to determination. Alliances shifted, loyalties were tested, and a new coalition formed, one committed to facing the drama head-on. The next confrontation was scheduled with the producers directly responsible for orchestrating the Cameras were present, not for a show, but to document a clear record of accountability. As Mendices entered the room, the tension was palpable. The producers, maintaining a facade of calm, tried to downplay the accusations. "This is just part of the business," one said. "Reality TV is drama, that's the nature of the game." Mendices' eyes narrowed, voice rising with controlled intensity. "It's not just business when people's lives, reputations, and families are being manipulated. Every lie, every scene, every conflict you engineered, it ends now." The room felt electric, each word charged with the weight of months of deception and emotional turmoil. Yandi stood beside him, unwavering, a pillar of support and strength. The family had been through more than anyone could imagine: public scrutiny, emotional manipulation, and the constant tension of watching private lives be twisted for entertainment. Now, together, they confronted the architects of the chaos. The producers tried to maintain composure, but the weight of evidence, combined with Mendices' unwavering presence, was undeniable. Subtle shifts in body language, nervous glances, and faltering statements betrayed the truth that had been carefully hidden. Meanwhile, social media erupted as clips of confrontations and behind-the-scenes revelations were shared strategically. Fans watched, engaged, and debated with unprecedented intensity. Hashtags soared, trending worldwide, and discussions spilled across platforms, fueling speculation and excitement. Every moment of the confrontation was analyzed, reanalyzed, and shared, amplifying the drama and cementing Mendices' position at the center of a narrative that had grown larger than any single individual. Personal stakes remained high. Former allies and friends who had stayed neutral now chose sides. Some publicly supporting Mendices, others quietly retreating. The tension within the family, already high, intensified as they navigated the emotional fallout of public attention, media scrutiny, and the lingering impact of manipulation. Yandi continued to balance protection of their children with support for her husband, guiding decisions and helping manage both public and private consequences. Every move, every statement, every interaction carried the weight of both personal integrity and public accountability. Then came the ultimate revelation, a private confession from a producer involved in the deepest manipulations. The admission confirmed everything Mendices had suspected: intentional edits, coaching of cast members, creation of false conflicts, and systematic efforts to undermine him. The confession, recorded and documented, was explosive. Emotions ran high as he processed the depth of the deceit. The betrayal was personal, professional, and public. And it underscored the magnitude of the battle he had fought to reclaim his story. The fallout from the confession was immediate. Fans, already captivated, exploded with reactions across platforms. Media outlets dissected every aspect, commentary flooded in, and the drama reached an unprecedented peak. Mendices, while exhausted, recognized the culmination of months of strategy, confrontation, and resilience. He had navigated betrayal, manipulation, and public scrutiny to assert control over a narrative that had been twisted for too long. As the confrontation concluded, Mendices addressed the public directly. The statement was measured, honest, and emotionally charged. He detailed the manipulations, the betrayals, and the personal stakes, framing the story in a way that highlighted both the drama and the human impact. Fans responded overwhelmingly, with support, outrage, and admiration. Social media was flooded with messages of solidarity, encouraging him to continue speaking his truth and reinforcing the significance of reclaiming personal narrative in the face of systemic manipulation. The family, exhausted but resilient, reflected on the journey. They had faced betrayal, public scrutiny, and emotional turbulence, yet they emerged stronger, united, and empowered. The experience had tested every relationship, every decision, and every aspect of trust, but it had also provided clarity, perspective, and a renewed sense of purpose. Mendices and Yandhi knew that while the public spectacle might continue, their private strength and unity would guide them through any challenges that lay ahead. Even as the immediate confrontations concluded, new layers of drama emerged. Former cast members, previously silent, began revealing their own experiences, adding nuance, tension, and additional complexity to the narrative. Fans remained captivated, engagement sustained at record levels, and the story continued to dominate conversations across platforms. Every revelation, every statement, and every interaction added to the tapestry of drama, intrigue, and emotional intensity. Throughout it all, Mendices maintained a focus on resilience and strategy. He understood that the battle was about more than just personal vindication. It was about integrity, accountability, and reclaiming control in a system designed to manipulate perception. Each step, each confrontation, and each disclosure was part of a larger effort to assert truth in the face of overwhelming drama, deception, and public scrutiny. By the end of Part 6, the saga had reached a climax. Confrontations had exposed hidden agendas, public disclosures had shifted perceptions, and emotional stakes had reached unprecedented heights. Fans were left on edge, captivated, and speculating about what might come next. Mendices, at the center of the storm, had navigated months of betrayal, manipulation, and public spectacle to assert control, expose the truth, and stand resilient amidst chaos. The story was far from over. Tensions remained, relationships had been tested, and the public remained riveted, but Mendices had reclaimed his narrative, set the stage for accountability, and demonstrated the power of resilience, strategy, and emotional courage in the face of overwhelming drama. And so, after months of twists, betrayals, and shocking revelations, the saga surrounding Mendices comes to a pivotal moment. The truth, finally exposed, has reshaped public perception, altered alliances, and left fans stunned at the magnitude of manipulation behind the scenes. It's been a roller coaster of emotions: anger, shock, disbelief, admiration, and through it all, one thing is clear: Mendices' resilience and determination have defined the story. Fans are still debating, analyzing, and theorizing, because even after everything, the questions remain. Who else was involved? What other secrets are hidden behind closed doors? And how will the fallout continue to ripple through the world of reality TV? The emotional toll on Mendices and his family has been immense. Yandhi's support, patience, and strategic insight have been critical, grounding him in moments of doubt and fear. Together, they navigated public scrutiny, personal betrayal, and the relentless pressure of media attention. The family emerged stronger, more united, and ready to face whatever comes next, proving that loyalty and love can withstand even the most intense storms of deception and drama. The children, thankfully shielded from the worst, have seen their parents stand firm, demonstrating courage, integrity, and the importance of fighting for truth in the face of overwhelming odds. For fans, the story has been both shocking and captivating. Every leak, confrontation, and revelation has created a level of engagement rarely seen in reality television. Social media buzzed, hashtags trended, and every post became a source of speculation, debate, and emotional investment. People were drawn not just to the scandal, but to the human story beneath it, a story of betrayal, resilience, and the struggle to reclaim agency in a world that thrives on drama and manipulation. The narrative transcended typical reality TV conflict, evolving into a saga that captivated audiences globally. Yet, even as the dust begins to settle, the story isn't truly over. Mendice's experiences have exposed systemic issues, raised questions about loyalty and ethics, and inspired conversations about integrity in the industry. Fans continue to watch closely, eager for updates, revelations, and the next twist. The drama may have reached a high point, but the potential for future developments remains, and that's what keeps the audience engaged, invested, and talking. As we reflect on this journey, one thing is certain: the power of speaking your truth cannot be underestimated. Mendices, faced with overwhelming manipulation, deceit, and public scrutiny, chose to confront the chaos head-on. His courage, strategy, and refusal to remain silent have not only reclaimed his narrative, but also set an example for anyone navigating personal and professional betrayal. Fans have rallied, social media buzzed, and the public has been reminded of the importance of integrity, resilience, and standing firm in the face of adversity. And here's where you come in. Yes, you, the viewer who's been following every twist, every revelation, every shocking confrontation. Your voice matters. What do you think about the entire saga? Were the producers justified in their manipulations, or did Mendices have every right to fight back? Which cast members' loyalties surprised you the most, and who do you think will emerge as the next key player in this unfolding drama? We want to hear your thoughts, theories, and reaction. Comment below and join the conversation, because your perspective adds to the story, shapes the dialogue, and keeps the drama alive. Don't forget to hit that like button if you've been captivated, shocked, or amazed by this saga. Subscribing ensures you won't miss a single update, revelation, or behind-the-scenes twist. Turn on notifications so that when the next shocking development emerges, you'll be the first to know. This story is still evolving, and every voice, every opinion, every fan contributes to the ongoing narrative. Your engagement keeps the drama alive, keeps the conversation going, and ensures that no part of this story goes unnoticed. So, take a moment, reflect on what you've witnessed, and share your perspective. Do you think Mendices has fully reclaimed his narrative, or is the drama far from over? Which twist shocked you the most? And most importantly, what would you do if you were in his shoes? The answers to these questions will spark discussion, fuel debate, and keep this saga alive for everyone who has been following along. Fans are still talking, emotions are still high, and the story's impact continues to resonate. And now, your voice is part of that ongoing journey. This is the moment to engage, reflect, and participate. The drama, the confrontations, the revelations, they've captivated millions, but the conversation doesn't stop here. Your insights, reactions, and theories are part of the larger story. So, comment below, like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone who's been following Mendices' shocking journey. Together, we keep the drama alive, the speculation flowing, and the story evolving. And remember, in a world where narratives can be manipulated, where betrayal can lurk behind every corner, standing firm, speaking your truth, and asserting your perspective is powerful. Mendices showed us that, and now it's your turn to weigh in, engage, react, and be part of the story. The saga continues, and the next chapter depends on fans like you to keep the conversation alive. Your voice matters, don't hold back. The morning sunlight spilled into Mendices' living room, but there was no warmth in the air. Tension lingered like a heavy fog, suffocating every thought. The leaked recordings, the confrontations, the social media explosions, it all had built to a point where even the smallest action felt monumental. Mendices sat at the edge of the couch, staring at his phone, scrolling through comments, mentions, and fan reactions. Thousands, maybe millions, had weighed in overnight. Some offered support, some criticized, but almost all were fascinated. The pressure to respond, to act, to reclaim control, was overwhelming. Yandi entered, a cup of coffee in her hand, eyes tired but resolute. "You need to breathe," she said softly. Her voice carried a calm strength that he desperately needed. "We've already survived so much. You're not alone in this." Mendices exhaled, rubbing his face with his hands. "It feels like the walls are closing in," he admitted. "Everywhere I turn, there's someone watching, someone judging, someone ready to twist the story even further." The room was silent for a moment, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator. "Then we make them see the truth," Yandi said firmly. "We set the record straight, and we don't let anyone take our narrative away again." He nodded, feeling a spark of determination ignite amidst the anxiety. Plans were made quickly. Calls were scheduled with former cast members, loyal insiders, and even a few journalists who had shown interest in uncovering the hidden manipulations. Each conversation needed to be carefully every word could be recorded, misinterpreted, or leaked, so precision, honesty, and timing were key. The couple mapped out a week of carefully controlled disclosures, aimed at revealing truth without losing control. By midday, Mendices was on his phone, arranging a confidential meeting with someone who had been both a friend and a silent observer, a former editor who had worked for the show for years. "You know everything that's been going on," he said when they met in a small, dimly lit cafe. "I need your help. I need proof. I need something undeniable that exposes the entire chain of manipulation." The editor looked nervous, glancing around as though the walls had ears. "It's risky," they said. "If this gets out, people could lose jobs, reputations could be destroyed. But yes, I have evidence. Months of footage, messages, and edits that show exactly what's been going on." Mendices felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The puzzle pieces he had been chasing were finally coming together, but the weight of exposure was immense. He knew that releasing the evidence could destroy relationships, ruin careers, and make enemies of those he once trusted. Yet, the alternative, silence, felt unbearable. He couldn't allow himself to be manipulated anymore. He had to stand, speak, and reclaim the narrative. Later that afternoon, a call came from an unexpected source, a former cast member who had been publicly silent, but privately watching the chaos unfold. "I can confirm what you've said," they admitted, voice low. "There were secret meetings, edited scripts, coached scenes, everything you suspected. I stayed out of it to protect myself, but I can't ignore it anymore. People need to know." Mendices felt validation surge through him. For months, doubts had gnawed at him, but now he had confirmation. The manipulation was real, systematic, and extensive. As evening approached, tension within the family intensified. The kids were home, unaware of the magnitude of what was happening. Yet even small movements and hushed conversations carried an underlying weight. Yandi did her best to shield them, but every phone call, every message, and every knock at the door reminded her that the world outside was watching, waiting for the next revelation. Mendices, sensing her concern, wrapped an arm around her. "We're going to get through this," he whispered. "We just need to stick together, no matter what comes next." The night was restless. Even as the city around them slept, their minds raced with plans, contingencies, and the enormity of the coming public exposure. Mendices drafted statements, organized proof, and rehearsed confrontations in his head. Yandi, ever vigilant, reminded him of the importance of patience, timing, and clarity. The couple worked side by side, meticulously planning each step, each release, and each conversation that could finally tilt the balance of perception in their favor. By midnight, social media was buzzing with rumors. Clips from old episodes resurfaced, screenshots of text messages circulated, and speculation reached fever pitch. Fans were divided. Some expressed unwavering support, some doubted, and others waited for the next shocking revelation. Mendices watched silently, taking notes on patterns, anticipating moves, and preparing for the moment when truth would be unavoidable. He felt a strange mixture of anxiety and power. Anxiety from the stakes, power from the realization that the evidence could finally vindicate him. Then came the first breakthrough. The editor sent a secure file containing hours of unedited footage, original messages between producers, and time-stamped edits that proved manipulation. Mendices sat in silence, scrolling frame by frame, listening to conversations, and connecting dots. Every scene, every cut, every coached line was revealed. The scope of deception was staggering. The anger surged within him, not just for himself, but for everyone who had been manipulated, misrepresented, or betrayed by those behind the cameras. Yandi watched him, concern etched on her face. This is bigger than I thought," she said softly. Mendices nodded, jaw tight. "Bigger than any of us imagined," he replied. "And if we're going to do this, we need a plan that's airtight. Nothing can slip. Nothing can be misrepresented again." They spent the rest of the night organizing the evidence, preparing statements, and rehearsing the narrative they would finally reveal to the public. As dawn broke, the city was quiet, but for Mendices and Yandi, the storm had only just begun. Every conversation, every disclosure, every confrontation from this point would determine the next chapter of their lives. They were ready to face the truth, ready to expose the manipulation, and ready to finally reclaim control over the narrative that had been stolen from them. The drama was far from over. but the first decisive moves had been made. The following morning, the house felt strangely quiet, almost deceptive in its calm. Mendices sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of printouts, transcripts, and his laptop, each screen showing hours of unedited footage. His eyes were bloodshot from the late night, but his focus was sharper than ever. He replayed a particular clip for the third time, watching as a producer subtly coached a cast member to provoke conflict during a scene. Every word, every gesture, every look confirmed what he had long suspected. This wasn't just manipulation. It was a calculated campaign designed to make him look bad while boosting ratings. Yandi poured herself a cup of coffee, sitting across from him with a steady gaze. "Are you ready for what comes next?" she asked quietly. Mendices looked up, eyes intense, and nodded. "I have to be. We've got proof, we've got allies, and now it's about execution. Every move counts." The children were still asleep upstairs, oblivious to the storm brewing in their family's world, and Yandi was determined to keep it that way. She reminded him that even as they prepared to go public, protecting their family's emotional well-being had to remain a priority. By mid-morning, Mendices was on the phone with a former cast member who had initially stayed silent. Their conversation was tense, emotional, and revealing. "I didn't know how far it went," the cast member admitted, voice shaking. "They told us it was for entertainment, but now I see it was personal. They wanted you out, and they wanted the story spun against you from day one." Mendices listened, absorbing the confirmation of betrayal, yet also feeling a surge of vindication. The pieces were coming together, forming a clear picture of manipulation, deceit, and personal vendettas hidden behind the facade of reality television. As the day progressed, the couple began coordinating with loyal insiders to create a controlled release strategy. The goal was to expose the truth without giving opponents the opportunity to twist the narrative. Every statement, every clip, every social media post was timed with precision. They rehearsed conversations, planned responses to potential backlash, and prepared for confrontations that were now inevitable. Each step required emotional fortitude, strategic thinking, and absolute clarity. Any misstep could be used against them in the public eye. By afternoon, Mendices received an anonymous tip. A new piece of footage had surfaced that could further expose the extent of the manipulation. It depicted a producer coaching multiple cast members to misrepresent his interactions, exaggerating conflicts, and fabricating arguments that never actually occurred. The implications were explosive. Mendices felt a rush of adrenaline, knowing that this evidence could turn the tide entirely in his favor. He immediately called Yandi over to review it. Together, they dissected each frame, noting the deliberate edits, the coached reactions, and the subtle cues that had been orchestrated to portray him negatively. The gravity of the situation intensified when they realized how many people had been involved. Not just the production team, but cast members who had been complicit, editors, and even some high-level executives. The betrayal ran deep, touching every corner of the show's operation. The emotional weight was immense, but it also fueled Mendices' resolve. He had been underestimated, misrepresented, and manipulated. But now he held the power to reveal the truth and reclaim control. As evening fell, social media began to stir. Rumors of a major revelation leaked online, and fans speculated wildly about what might come next. Hashtags surged, trending globally, while discussion threads exploded with theories, accusations, and anticipation. Mendices watched the frenzy unfold, noting how public perception could be influenced, swayed, and sometimes misled. He knew that careful timing and clarity of message were critical. Any misstep could undermine the credibility he had fought so hard to reclaim. Later that night, he scheduled a private video call with multiple insiders who had agreed to come forward publicly. The call was intense, emotional, and revealing. Each insider confirmed aspects of the manipulation, provided first-hand accounts of coached scenes, and exposed the tactics used to distort reality. Emotions ran high as stories of betrayal, professional sabotage, and personal targeting surfaced. Mendices remained calm, yet firm, documenting everything, preparing for the moment when the world would finally see the full extent of what had been done. As the call ended, Yandi and Mendices sat in silence, processing the magnitude of what they now had in their possession. "We can't just drop this all at once," Yandi said, her voice thoughtful. "We need to be deliberate, strategic. This is bigger than any single post or video." Mendices nodded, a mix of exhaustion and determination in his eyes. "Every move counts. If we do this right, we not only reclaim our story, we expose the system and protect others from being manipulated the same way." The night stretched on, but neither of them rested. They reviewed footage, transcribed conversations, and mapped out the release sequence with military precision. Every detail mattered. Timestamps, captions, context, and sequencing had to be flawless. The plan was to release a multi-part exposé, each installment building on the last, designed to maintain attention, maximize impact, and ensure that the truth could not be denied or distorted. By the early hours of the morning, the first draft of their public statement was ready. It was raw, honest, and unflinching. It detailed months of manipulation, highlighted specific betrayals, and showcased the evidence they had painstakingly gathered. It was both a personal vindication and a public revelation, designed to take control of the narrative, confront those responsible, and demand accountability. And just as dawn broke, signaling the start of another day, Mendices knew that the moment of reckoning had arrived. The evidence, the allies, and the strategy were all in place. It was time to step into the spotlight, expose the hidden manipulations, and finally reclaim the story that had been stolen from him. The storm was far from over, but for the first time in months, he felt a surge of power, clarity, and determination. The drama was escalating to a point where the world would have no choice but to confront the truth, and Mendices was ready. The city outside was waking slowly, but inside Mendices' home, the energy was electric. Every corner of the living room was covered with evidence, screenshots, printed transcripts, clips queued on laptops, and notes scribbled on sticky papers. The moment of truth was near, and the tension was almost tangible. Mendices paced, running his hands through his hair, rehearsing the key points he would make once everything went public. Yandi watched him, her own anxiety tempered by determination. "Remember," she said, "clarity over emotion. Facts first. Let the truth do the talking." He nodded, taking a deep breath, steadying his racing thoughts. By mid-morning, loyal allies began arriving, former cast members, insiders, and even a couple of editors, who had refused to take sides previously, now showed up, ready to back him publicly. The room was thick with anticipation, a mix of nervous energy and quiet resolve. Each person brought forward evidence, testimonies, and confirmations that reinforced the story Mendices was about to tell. Voices overlapped, emotions ran high, but a shared sense of purpose kept the chaos in check. Mendices called everyone together, and they went over the sequence of the public expo. Every clip, every statement, every screenshot was carefully planned to build a coherent, undeniable narrative. "We need to hit them with the facts first," he instructed, "then the context, then the proof. People have to see the manipulation as clearly as we do." Nods of agreement circled the room. Despite the tension, there was a sense of camaraderie, a shared mission to right wrongs, reclaim truth, and finally expose the machinery of deception that had dominated the narrative for months. As noon approached, the first video segment was finalized. It opened with a clear statement from Mendices, his voice calm but firm, recounting his experience, the manipulations, and the betrayals. Each subsequent clip provided evidence, unedited footage, original messages, and side-by-side comparisons showing how scenes had been manipulated to create false conflict. Every detail was meticulously crafted to leave no room for doubt. The insiders' statements added layers of credibility, giving the audience a first-hand look at the depth and scope of the deception. Yandi prepared to handle the social media strategy. Every platform, from Twitter to Instagram to YouTube, had to be coordinated. The initial release would drop at precisely the right time, followed by staggered content to maintain attention and control the narrative. Fan engagement had to be managed carefully, encouraging discussion while avoiding potential misinformation or distraction. Every like, comment, and share would amplify the story, and every interaction had to be anticipated. By early afternoon, the first video was uploaded and went live. The reaction was instantaneous. Fans flooded social media, sharing, debating, and dissecting the evidence. Hashtags surged, trending globally within minutes. Media outlets picked up the story, running segments analyzing every clip, every statement, and every revelation. The intensity of public engagement surpassed anything Mendices had imagined. The truth, once hidden and distorted, now dominated the conversation. As the day progressed, the second wave of disclosures was released. This segment focused on the coordinated manipulation of specific cast members, showing how coaching, scripted lines, and selective editing had been used to create false narratives. The reactions were explosive. Fans were shocked, angry, and deeply invested. Comments poured in, showing support, outrage, and a growing awareness of the systemic manipulation within reality television. The momentum was building, and the strategy was working exactly as planned. Even with the public spectacle escalating, personal stakes remained high. Former cast members, who had initially stayed silent, were now under intense scrutiny. Some came forward voluntarily, corroborating Mendice's story, while others tried to distance themselves, creating additional drama. The emotional intensity was palpable. Every new statement, every new revelation, carried the potential for further conflict or vindication. Mendices and Yandi navigated each development carefully, ensuring the family remained protected while continuing to assert control over the narrative. By evening, the final segment of the first wave was ready. It revealed the inner workings of the production team. Conflicts. The footage, combined with insider testimony, left little doubt about the extent of manipulation. Viewers reacted viscerally. Fans rallied behind Mendices, and media coverage reached unprecedented levels. The story had become more than personal vindication. It was a cultural moment exposing the dark side of reality television. As night fell, the family gathered together. Exhaustion was visible on every face, but there was also a sense of accomplishment. They had taken control, exposed the truth, and finally reclaimed a narrative that had been stolen. Yet, even in the quiet moments, tension lingered. The story was far from over. Reactions would continue. Consequences would unfold, and the next chapter of confrontations and revelations was already looming. Mendices knew that vigilance, resilience, and strategy were required to maintain the momentum and navigate the inevitable fallout. And as the city outside settled into darkness, the living room remained a hive of activity. Evidence was reviewed, fan reactions were monitored, and plans for the next wave of disclosures were refined. Mendices, Yandi, and their allies understood the stakes. They were not just fighting for personal vindication, but for truth, integrity, and control over a story that had captivated millions. The storm had reached a new level of intensity, and the battle for narrative dominance had officially entered its most explosive phase. The next morning brought an eerie calm, almost deceptive in its serenity. Mendices sat at the edge of the couch, laptop open, reviewing fan reactions, news segments, and social media posts. The first wave of his expos had gone viral. Hashtags were trending worldwide, clips were being replayed endlessly, and commentary flooded in from every corner. The scale of public engagement was staggering. Millions were now aware of the manipulation, and conversations about integrity, truth, and betrayal dominated every platform. Yandi entered, coffee in hand, her expression a mix of fatigue and determination. "It's only going to get bigger from here," she said quietly. Mendices nodded, eyes locked on the screen. "I know," he replied, "and we have to be ready for everything. Backlash, denials, counter-narratives. People will try to twist this, but we stay consistent, factual, and calm." She sat beside him, reviewing notes and planning the next phase. Together, they would continue the coordinated releases, timing every disclosure to maximize clarity and impact while maintaining control over the narrative. By late morning, the first insider interviews were compiled for the second wave. These included former cast members willing to speak on camera for the first time, confirming the behind-the-scenes manipulations, coaching of interactions, and intentional edits. Each interview was carefully framed to highlight factual evidence, corroborate previous disclosures, and provide a human perspective on the emotional toll. Mendices and Yandi meticulously reviewed every clip, ensuring accuracy, tone, and sequencing were perfect. Midday brought an unexpected message from a former high-ranking producer, someone previously considered untouchable. The message was cryptic but hinted at further evidence that could deepen the impact of Mendices' expos. "Meet me," it read. "There's more you need to see before anyone else does." Mendices felt a surge of curiosity and caution. He and Yandi prepared carefully, ensuring the meeting would be secure, and that all potential risks were accounted for. The stakes had escalated. Every interaction now carried not just emotional, but legal and reputational weight. By afternoon, the meeting took place in a quiet, neutral location. The former producer handed over a folder containing documents, emails, and unedited footage that revealed additional layers of manipulation. Specific scenes had been orchestrated weeks in advance. Cast members coached on precise lines and reactions, and entire story arcs manipulated to vilify Mendices while enhancing drama. The revelation was staggering. Mendices felt a mix of vindication and anger. Months of deception had finally been documented in black and white. As the evening approached, the family gathered to plan the next release. The documents and footage were integrated into the ongoing expos, forming a third wave designed to further dismantle the false narratives. The release would demonstrate not only manipulation, but also the systematic nature of the betrayal, exposing patterns and intentional strategies. Every detail was scrutinized to ensure the story remained clear, compelling, and impossible to deny. That night, social media anticipation was palpable. Fans speculated, debated, and shared theories about what might come next. Hashtags surged once again, trending globally. As anticipation built, news outlets reported on the previous waves, analyzing the impact and speculating about the upcoming disclosures. Mendices monitored every reaction, noting patterns, potential threats, and opportunities to reinforce the truth. By midnight, the third wave was live. It included interviews, documentation, and side-by-side comparisons showing original footage versus edited clips. Fans reacted immediately. Shock, outrage, and admiration flooded social media. Comments poured in expressing support, disbelief, and incredulity at the depth of manipulation. The narrative had evolved beyond personal vindication. It had become a cultural reckoning, exposing systemic issues in the world of reality television and media manipulation. Amidst the public spectacle, personal stakes remained high. Former allies who had remained silent were now being pressured by media attention. Some reaffirmed support, others distanced themselves, creating further tension and drama. Mendices and Yandi navigated these dynamics carefully, ensuring their family remained protected while continuing to assert control over the narrative. Every step, every disclosure, and every interaction carried weight, both publicly and privately. As dawn approached, exhaustion weighed heavily on the couple. Yet, there was a sense of accomplishment. Months of deception, betrayal, and manipulation had been laid bare, the truth reclaimed, and the family's integrity upheld. Still, they knew this was only the beginning. Reactions would continue to unfold, new layers of drama would emerge, and the next chapter of revelations and confrontations was already on the horizon. Mendices and Yandi remained vigilant, ready to face whatever came next with clarity, courage, and resolve. And now, after months of twists, betrayals, shocking revelations, and high-stakes confrontations, the story of Mendices has reached a turning point. The truth, finally revealed, has left fans stunned, emotions running high, and the reality of behind-the-scenes manipulation exposed for all to see. What started as personal betrayal has evolved into a cultural phenomenon, sparking conversations about integrity, loyalty, and the way stories are crafted in the world of reality television. Fans are still debating, analyzing, and questioning what comes next. Because even after everything, the drama is far from over. Who else was involved? What other secrets are still hidden? And how will this saga continue to unfold in the months ahead? The emotional toll on Mendices and his family has been immense. Yandi's unwavering support, patience, and strategic insight have been crucial, keeping him grounded and helping navigate the storm. Together, they have faced public scrutiny, personal betrayal, and the relentless pressure of social media, emerging stronger, more united, and ready to protect their family while reclaiming control over the narrative. The children, shielded as much as possible, have witnessed their parents' courage, determination, and commitment to truth, learning lessons about resilience, integrity, and standing firm even in the most challenging situations. For fans, the story has been nothing short of explosive. Every leaked clip, every insider interview, every shocking revelation has captivated audiences around the world. Social media has been flooded with reactions, discussions, and debates. People are drawn not just to the scandal, but to the human story beneath it, the fight for truth, the courage to confront betrayal, and the struggle to reclaim one's voice in a world dominated by manipulation and spectacle. The saga has transcended reality TV, becoming a conversation about power, control, and the lengths people will go to shape narratives. Yet, even with so much revealed, questions remain. The system of manipulation in this saga is larger than any one person. Alliances, betrayals, and hidden agendas continue to surface. Fans are left wondering, who else knew? Who else played a part? And what are the long-term consequences for everyone involved? These lingering questions keep the audience engaged, invested, and eagerly anticipating each new development. The story has proven that even in the most public arenas, truth can be obscured and only courage, persistence, and strategy can bring it to light. Through it all, Mendices has demonstrated the power of standing firm, speaking one's truth, and refusing to be manipulated. His journey is a testament to resilience, patience, and strategic thinking in the face of overwhelming adversity. Fans have rallied, conversations have erupted globally, and the public has been reminded that even the most complex and carefully controlled narratives can be challenged, exposed, and rewritten by those brave enough to act. And here's where you come in. Yes, You, the viewer who's been following every shocking twist, every heated confrontation, and every revealing clip. Your voice matters. What do you think about everything that has happened? Were the producers justified in their manipulations, or did Mendices have every right to fight back? Which alliances shocked you the most? And who do you think will emerge as the next key player in this ongoing drama? Comment below and join the conversation. Your opinion shapes the narrative, fuels debate, and keeps the story alive in ways that no video or post alone could. Don't forget to hit the like button if this saga has shocked, amazed, or captivated you. Subscribing ensures you won't miss a single revelation, confrontation, or behind-the-scenes twist. Turn on notifications so that when the next explosive development drops, you'll be the first to know. This story is still evolving, and your engagement keeps the momentum alive, ensuring that no detail, no revelation, and no perspective is lost or ignored. Every like, comment, and share adds to the impact, amplifying the narrative and keeping the drama front and center. Take a moment now to reflect on what you've witnessed. Do you believe Mendices has fully reclaimed his narrative, or is the story far from over? Which revelation shocked you the most? And if you were in his shoes, what would you do next? Your answers, your theories, and your reactions are part of the larger conversation. They help shape the discussion, influence the unfolding narrative, and ensure that this saga continues to captivate audiences for weeks, months, and perhaps even years. Engage, react, and participate. This isn't just a story being told to you, it's a story that includes you. Every perspective, every opinion, every comment contributes to the cultural conversation surrounding this drama. Your involvement keeps the exposure of truth alive, encourages accountability, and reminds the world that voices matter, even in spaces dominated by manipulation and spectacle. And remember, standing firm, speaking your truth, and asserting your perspective is powerful. Mendices showed us that, and now it's your turn. Join the conversation, share your insights, comment below, and be part of this ongoing saga. The story isn't finished, the drama isn't over, and your engagement ensures that the next chapter will be just as explosive, just as captivating, and just as unforgettable as everything that has come before. Your voice matters, don't hold back. So like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with everyone who's been following the journey. Together, we keep the drama alive, the story evolving, and the conversation burning. The saga continues. And now, thanks to you, it will never be forgotten.